there I am dead. Okay. Like, I'm just accepting it. And I start to wonder, like, what was the point of my life? Like, I'd gone through all of these things, the molestation, the bullying, and it's like I was given these visions. One was the person that I could have been had I not died. I saw all of these, like, getting married, having a fulfilling career, all of these people that I could have been there to support when they were going through dark times, and the good that I could have done, that my life could have had meaning, but it was over. All right, so where to start? I'll just start by saying, like, back in 2014, I died from a heroin overdose. I was very much addicted to opiates, and there was a series of events that led up to that. So let's start just by talking about my childhood a little bit. I was raised a Jehovah's Witness. I would go door to door with my mother, teaching people about Jehovah and going to meetings, the whole 9 yards. I very much had a strong faith at that point in Jehovah. And let's see, I had a proclivity to spiritual experiences. I think when I was like 5 or 6, I felt my bed shaking, and I felt these hands, these claws, like digging into my ribs, and it felt like a demonic attack. So I was absolutely terrified, mortified, and I couldn't move because the fear was so bad. So I just was barely able to get out the words, Jehovah, help me, Jehovah, help me. And instantly it stopped. I told my mother about it. She thought it was just a bad dream, go back to sleep. But I just kind of tell that story because maybe some people out there have a spiritual proclivity to having these kinds of experiences. I don't think everybody has them, but maybe some people have like a predisposition to have NDEs and that sort of thing. But so I was very much spiritual. I was always curious about spiritual religious concepts like Archangel Michael, the war in heaven, the Temple of Jerusalem, all this different stuff. I was into that as a kid, and just, it also, like, being in Jehovah's Witness, I appreciate it because it gave me a lot of values. Growing up, I was taught not to steal. I was taught to tell the truth, to be a good person, and I appreciate that. But I was also, and it gave me like a perspective outside mainstream society, which I appreciate because our mainstream society is very much materialistic, and the Jehovah's Witness religion kind of gave me a different perspective on what is true, what's of value in life. So I was never really sucked into like materialism and having all the shiny toys and things like that. But on the other hand, it kind of made me an outsider. So in school, I never saluted the flag, never celebrated holidays, didn't participate in extracurricular activities, which kind of singled me out as different, probably, and I was bullied horrendously in school. My mom was raising me as a single mother, and she was doing the best she could. And when I was 8 years old, my dad came back into my life and fought for custody and got visitation rights. And up to that point, I was pretty much, just a normal kid and with some interesting spiritual experiences going on. But what ended up happening was when I was 8, so he had custody, and then he brought me over to his best friend's house, and they were all getting ready to go out on the town and have a good time, getting dressed up, getting ready, and then they all leave, and they left me with a babysitter. And this guy, like, was so awesome. I spent all day with him, like, before my parents left to go out they were getting ready to go to like a party or something. They were going to be gone all night. Before that, like I'd been playing with this guy. I think he was like 15 or 16, and he was showing me fireworks. Like I'd been very sheltered as a kid, never saw fireworks, and we were setting off fireworks. He was showing me that, taking me to all of these places like around the house, took me to a little lake. We were catching frogs, and basically like we became best friends instantly. And he was like such a cool guy, and like I looked up to him so much because I was 8, he was 16, and he would listen to me. I would talk and he would just listen and ask me questions back and take a genuine interest in me. My parents left for the night, and the guy ended up molesting me all night. And the part that it happened for hours and hours and hours, and he wouldn't stop. I asked him to stop so many times and he just wouldn't. And I couldn't, defend myself. I didn't really even understand what was going on, but I knew that it was wrong. And the part that I disclosed recently on another show is that this was the first time that I'd ever had an erection. That disturbed me. I don't know how to explain it. Like the shame, the guilt. I was very sheltered in the Jehovah's Witness religion. We never talked about sex. We didn't, if there was like a sex scene that came up in a movie or something, we would just fast forward right through the scene. And so it was something that was kind of like it was forbidden to have sex outside of marriage. And it wasn't something that was discussed openly in my family. So after this happened, I didn't know how to process it. And I didn't talk for 3 days. So when I was dropped off with my mom after this happened, I didn't talk, and she was trying to get me to figure out what was wrong with me. And finally she said, if somebody touched you in the wrong way, tap me on the shoulder. And then I tapped her on the shoulder. And that's when she knew that something happened. So she got me counseling, but I was never able to open up about it. And I was never able to process those emotions. So it all kind of was swept under the rug. And then I went into like middle school and high school and had these feelings of not being good enough. I would compare myself to the other kids, and they would make fun of me, beat me up, like relentless. I came to hate school. I hated the teachers. I hated the institution. I hated the kids. And when I was 14, I was diagnosed with sacroiliac spondylitis and Crohn's disease. So that's like arthritis of the spine and arthritis of the intestine, pretty much. So that was very painful. And when I was 15, they put me on my first opiates. So from that time up to 2014, I was addicted to opiates and totally dependent on them. And it just progressed and got worse and worse and worse over time. It would help me numb the physical pain, but it would also help numb the emotional pain. And it would make me feel like comfortable in my own skin, like I could talk to people and not feel like inferior, or I would take it and it would calm my mind down and it would calm my body and I would feel normal and good. And I would take more. They went from Darvocet, which is like the weakest prescription, up to Vicodin, up to oxycodone, and it just kept progressing. So I dropped out of school in 9th grade and went to work. I had a couple jobs at some restaurants. And when I was 21, I was in a fist fight. So this is a separate NDE, but I was in a fist fight where the guy, I had been drinking, there was a woman involved, and the guy beat me to within an inch of my life. He kicked me in the head with steel-toed boots. And the doctor said the next day that if I had 3 more pounds of pressure behind that last kick, it would have gone into my brain and it would have killed me. So that shook me up and made me question my identity up to that point. So I kind of had like an identity crisis and went into a hospital for it. And I had developed all these beliefs about myself, like I'm stupid, for instance. And I isolated that belief and said, I'm going to question this belief and see if it's true. So basically, I lost consciousness when he kicked me in the head with the steel-toed boots, and I saw nothing but black. And I think at that point, I realized the possibility of my own non-existence. It was like my life could end at any time. So what am I doing with my life? And I questioned that belief. Am I stupid? Let's see if I'm stupid. It's because I dropped out in 9th grade. I literally believed that I was stupid. I was going nowhere with my life, and ended up going back to school, getting a high school equivalent. Then I went to a community college, got an associate's degree there, and ended up going into a special program called Exploring Transfer, where I won a $200,000 scholarship, a full scholarship to attend Vassar College, where I got a degree in philosophy. But the one thing that whole thing right there taught me is that we can have these beliefs about ourselves, these negative beliefs, negative thoughts that we might assume are true. But when you really question them and you test it, they turn out to be completely false. So, I mean, how could I be like academically stupid and graduate from Vassar with a philosophy degree and win a full scholarship, right? So that's just like something for the audience to think about. But the thing is like when I went on that educational journey, I was still addicted to these opiates. At Vassar, I was at a party and ended up doing some heroin. They had some heroin there, and I did some and started doing that. When I moved back home after graduation, I would run out of my prescription early and go into withdrawals, and I'd have to find something else. And the easiest thing to get for me at the time was heroin. There was this time where I was at my mom's house, and I'd been in withdrawals for 3 days. I couldn't find anything. Nobody had anything. And my prescription was out, and I was having like a crisis, like sweating, like looking at the clock, the moment stretched for an eternity, all of these insecurities coming to the surface, resentments that I had toward different people and institutions. I was resentful at the Jehovah's Witnesses at that point. I was resentful for the school system, for the bullies, for the ex-girlfriends, the guy who molested me, just on, full of resentments, angry at life. I'd become an angry person and totally dependent on substances for any kind of normality. 3 days with nothing. I'm waiting for a guy to show up to bring me some stuff, and he finally gets there, and it's just such a relief. He leaves, I do the heroin, and then I realize I'm dying, and that's when I had my second NDE. The next thing I know, everything kind of dims, and it feels like I'm sinking into a hole. And then I'm next to my body, outside my body, looking at myself, and I realize I'm dead. And it's no big deal, just very run-of-the-mill. There I am dead, okay. Like, I'm just accepting it. And I start to wonder, like, what was the point of my life? Like, I'd gone through all of these things, the molestation, the bullying. Yeah, I had some good times. I had that NDE and then questioned my identity. Am I really stupid? Won this big full scholarship to Vassar, graduated from there. What was the point of it all? Now my life's over. And then I became aware of this like presence in the room. And it was just there, and I could feel that I was being watched. And as I'm sitting there or standing there, looking at my body, wondering about my life, this presence all of a sudden is there. And then I'm just like transported. And it's like I was given these visions. One was the person that I could have been had I not died. Like the life that I was supposed to have lived. The good life. The life that I could have lived had I overcome drugs. I saw all of these, like getting married, having a fulfilling career, all of these people that I could have been there to support when they were going through dark times, and the good that I could have done, that my life could have had meaning, but it was over and it's not going to happen. Every image, after every image, it's like, that's not going to happen now because your life's over. Getting married, that's not going to happen. Having children, that's not going to happen. Becoming financially free, that's not going to happen. All of these different friends that you could have made. No, all of these, the good that you could have done in different people's lives. Nope. It's just all of this potential that was just gone and wasted. And then I was shown the effect that my death would have had on my loved ones. So, well, I saw the people at the funeral, the things that were being said about me, different phone calls that were happening between different family members, conversations between friends at parties, and the pain and the sorrow that people were experiencing because of my death. And then this is the part that like really stood out to me, was I was shown my mother coming into her apartment, which is where I was, dead on the couch. It had been a few hours and my body was pale, discolored, and I had pus running out of my mouth, and just a corpse, lifeless corpse. She comes in, she had been out in field ministry for the Jehovah's Witnesses, doing her thing out there, and comes in, puts her keys down, walks into the room, looks at me, and then she says, "Oh my God. Oh my God, that's my baby. My baby. No, God, don't let this be happening. My baby, no, this is my baby, my baby." And then I could feel like her emotions, and I could see her thoughts, and she was having thoughts of me as a little baby, like a toddler, making cookies together during a snowstorm, teaching me how to walk, playing games with me, bringing me to my first day of school. And it was so heavy and crushing, and the grief, the pain, and I realized as I'm seeing this that I'm responsible for that. I'm responsible for that pain that is being caused. And then after I see that, I hear this voice, and it says, "Now your life is over and you wasted it." And that was like a kick in the stomach, right? I'm just like crushed, and I just beg. Whatever there was a presence there with me this whole time, and I just start begging, "Don't let me die. I can't let this happen. Please send me back. I'll do anything to overcome the addiction, anything to set this right. Whatever's required of me, I will do whatever it takes. I can't let my mother experience that pain and be responsible for it." Then all of a sudden, I'm back in my body, gasping for air. It was like I was given a second chance at life. Immediately after that, my mother came home, and we called crisis and counseling. I went into a detox program for 7 days, and it was absolutely terrible. The anxiety, and like, it feels like being a piece of bacon sizzling on a skillet. That's what it feels like. And there's no escape. You just have to go through it. You're just there, you're suffering, and it seems like it's never going to end. My brain was so accustomed to opiates that I literally had to learn how to tie my shoelaces. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't write in my journal, nothing. So 7-day detox. After that, I went into an outpatient program where I would go there every day for a couple of hours and meet with guys that were in recovery. A lot of them were like convicts and criminals and other people like me who had just overdosed. And then that's where I was introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous, and started doing some real spiritual work. I met like a sponsor in Alcoholics Anonymous, went through the 12 steps, and that was kind of the beginning of the healing, because all of the negative thing, my mind, it was so hard for years, struggling with negative thinking, self-esteem issues, feeling of not being good enough. I was in these cycles of trying to prove myself. I would try to prove my intelligence, or try to prove my capability with work, or in relationships. I would try to be with my girlfriend and try to fix her. Like dysfunctional patterns, no boundaries. And I had to break all of these patterns one at a time. It was like a tangled, jarbled mess. And the 12 steps helped me do a lot of that. Like, for instance, one big thing was overcoming resentments. And they say in Alcoholics Anonymous that that resentment is the number one offender. So resentment of things that have happened to us in our past is the number one reason why people drink. So I had to go through a process to let go of my resentments, to face all of these different fears. I was full of fear of the future, fear of death, fear of being alone, just on and on. And it's been a wild ride since all of this happened. And it hasn't been easy, but I have to say that at this point, I have like overcome all those fears. It's like I was my own worst enemy. I'd become my own worst enemy, and I've learned how to become my own best friend. Taught the inner dialogue, changing the inner dialogue, talking to myself with respect, giving myself a pat on the back, not expecting other people to do it. At this point in my life, I've overcome all of that, the resentments, the fear, the self-esteem issues, the negative thinking, to the point, I got married to the love of my life. I have purchased a house. We have multiple vehicles. I had a son. I have everything that I could ever want in life. I have a business. I'm financially successful, and I help people. Like, what more could you want out of life than that? And that's the result of, facing the fear and doing the work, putting the work in, taking personal responsibility, putting your trust that there is a life that you're meant to live. So you trust that, and you work with the Creator and you take steps, step by step, and you create the life that you were meant to live, that the higher power wants you to live. That's my story.